Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, be sure to drop your thoughts, feelings, and lessons in the comments below. Like the video and subscribe so you never miss stories like this. Let's get into it. The cruelest thing my fiancé ever did was laugh at me in front of people I loved, then tell me, with a straight face, that my humiliation was my feelings and therefore my problem. She did it at our own engagement dinner in Baltimore, right as her friends were filming a toast. When my voice cracked trying to explain how her constant disrespect was wearing me down, she leaned back in her chair, smirked, and said, "Kareem, you're doing that emotional thing again. Handle it. Don't make it my issue." The table went quiet for half a second. Then they laughed anyway. Here's how it happened. For nearly 2 years, I convinced myself that love meant endurance, that if I stayed calm, stayed generous, stayed steady, she'd eventually soften. Her name is Selena Ward. Mine is Kareem Niles. We're both black, both grown, both from families that taught us to show up strong. I work in operations for a shipping company, the kind of job that rewards planning and punishes mistakes. Selena calls herself an event planner, but what she really loves is the appearance of a thriving business. She loves rooms full of people, bright lights, and the feeling of being admired without being questioned. When we first met, Selena was magnetic in a quiet way. She didn't chase attention at the bar in Federal Hill. She sat with a glass of water, smiling like she knew something everyone else didn't. I noticed her because she looked calm. I'd just come off a year of overtime, headaches, and a small grief I never talked about. My father's death had left me carrying a heaviness I didn't know how to set down. When Selena asked me what I did for work, she listened like it mattered. When I asked about her dreams, her eyes lit up. That was the first hook. Her ambition felt like life. The early months were good in the way early months often are, smooth, bright, full of potential. We did Saturday breakfasts in Harbor East, late walks around the inner harbor, small road trips down to D.C. just to eat at a place she found on social media. Selena liked taking pictures of everything. The plates, the skyline, my hand on the table. She'd post them quickly, then watch the likes like they were proof. I didn't mind. I was just glad to be with someone who wanted to build a future. I thought her drive meant she was serious. The first time she dismissed my feelings, it was almost subtle. I'd asked if we could leave a party early because one of her friends kept making jokes about my job, calling me warehouse boy like it was funny. Selena's smile tightened, and in the car she said, "You cannot be this sensitive. My friends are joking. Stop making it weird." I remember staring out the window and telling myself it wasn't a big deal. I told myself she was embarrassed and would apologize later. She didn't. The next day, she acted like nothing happened, and when I brought it up, she sighed and said, "Why are you still on that?" Over time, that sigh became a pattern. If I asked for kindness, she called it neediness. If I asked for honesty, she called it interrogation. If I told her I felt disrespected, she said I was projecting. She never yelled much. She didn't need to. She could cut you down with a calm tone, a controlled face, and a sentence that made you feel childish for wanting basic respect. And the worst part was how quickly she could flip the room. Around others, she was charming and warm, the woman who offered to help clean up, the woman who remembered birthdays. Then at home, the warmth evaporated like it had never existed. I started spending more time at work because it was easier than being in my own living room with someone who made me feel like an inconvenience. My job is structured. Metrics, schedules, clear responsibilities. With Selena, everything felt like shifting sand. She'd promise one thing and then pretend she never said it. She'd ask for my opinion on wedding details and then roll her eyes if I had one. "It's my day," she said once, laughing when I looked hurt. "I mean, it's ours, but you know what I mean." She didn't say it was a mistake. She said it like a correction I needed to accept. When I proposed, it was at a quiet spot in Patterson Park. Just us, no cameras, no crowd. I thought privacy would mean something to her, that it would signal commitment instead of performance. She said yes quickly, hugged me, then immediately asked, "Are we going to take pictures right now?" I told myself she was excited. That night, she posted a close-up of the ring and captioned it like a headline. I watched her refresh the screen again and again. In bed, she scrolled while I stared at the ceiling, already feeling like the ring had been given to an audience instead of a partner. Her mother, Brinley Ward, moved through our engagement like she was the one getting married. Brinley wasn't loud. She was precise, polite voice, sharp eyes, questions that sounded innocent until you realized what they were really about. The first time she came to our place after the proposal, she looked at our condo like she was appraising it. She asked what my credit score was. She asked if I planned to take care of Selena properly. When I said I believed in teamwork, Brinley smiled and replied, "Teamwork is nice until life gets serious." Selena watched the exchange like it entertained her. I tried to connect with Selena's circle because I wanted our lives to blend. Her friends, Kalia, Denise, and Monroe, were always around for planning sessions that felt like auditions. They would sit at our kitchen counter with coffee and laptops, talking in a way that made everything sound like a competition. They compared venues, dresses, honeymoons, and men like men were props. When Selena corrected me in front of them, they'd glance at each other and smirk. If I asked a question about costs, they acted like I was cheap. If I stayed quiet, they called me moody. I felt trapped no matter what I did. The stress built slowly, then all at once. Wedding planning exposed every crack in our relationship because it forced us to make decisions together. Selena didn't want decisions. She wanted compliance. She wanted me to nod, pay, and stay out of her spotlight. She made jokes about my little feelings more often, especially when I looked tired. One night after work, I asked if we could talk about how distant she'd become. She didn't look up from her phone. She said, "Kareem, I don't have the capacity for this. Go journal. Go pray. Go do something. But don't put your emotional labor on me." I started trying to fix myself because she made me believe I was the issue. I read relationship articles at lunch. I listened to podcasts on my commute. I even booked a few counseling sessions alone, not because she asked, but because I didn't want to lose the relationship. I showed up to those sessions with a list of ways I could be better, communicate more clearly, be less reactive, offer more affirmation. My counselor asked me a question that made my throat tighten. Does she ever repair after she hurts you? I paused. I tried to find an example. I couldn't. The silence in that room felt louder than any argument. The first time I truly saw contempt on her face was a Sunday morning in our condo. I had made breakfast, eggs, turkey bacon, grits, trying to create a soft moment. She walked in wearing a robe, looked at the plate, and said, "This looks heavy. You know I'm trying to be snatched for my wedding." Then she turned to me and added, "But it's fine. You can eat it. You're not the one in the dress." It wasn't playful. It was a reminder that my role was to applaud her, fund her, and accept the jokes as normal. Around that time, she started pushing her business harder. The event planning studio became her favorite talking point, even though most of her work was occasional gigs booked through friends of friends. She talked about expansion like it was already happening. She wanted a website, new equipment, a nicer car to match the brand. She said she needed a bigger line of credit to move like a real business. I asked if she had an accountant. She scoffed. "That's why I have you. You're good with numbers." I told her operations are not accounting. She rolled her eyes and said, "Still, you're stable." Stability is a compliment until someone uses it like a leash. Selena started framing my caution as betrayal. If I asked for details, she called me unsupportive. If I asked to see contracts, she accused me of trying to control her. She'd say things like, "Why can't you just believe in me?" As if believing meant signing papers blind. I offered to help her set up a budget, track income, and separate business finances from personal spending. She shut it down. "That's too strict," she said. "You always want to make rules. That's your problem." Every conversation ended with me apologizing for being careful. The engagement dinner that later became my breaking point started like a celebration. We met at a bright restaurant near the harbor, a place with big windows and polished wood that made everything look expensive. Selena wore a fitted dress and a smile that felt practiced. Her friends were already there, and Brinley sat like a queen at the end of the table. People clinked glasses. Someone asked about the wedding date. Selena leaned into the moment, telling stories about the venue and how perfect everything would be. Then Brinley asked a question that turned the air sharp. "So, Kareem, are you ready to handle a woman like my daughter?" The table laughed, but it wasn't warm laughter. It was the laughter you hear when the room has already chosen a side. I try to answer lightly. I'm ready to build with her, I said. Brinley's smile stayed in place. Build, she repeated, as if tasting the word. Then she looked at Selena and said, make sure he understands what he signed up for. Some men think love is enough. Selena smirked and replied, he's learning. Her friends laughed again. My chest tightened, and for a second I felt like I was watching myself from far away, sitting there, smiling while my dignity bled out quietly. I waited until the end of dinner to speak up, because I didn't want to ruin the night. In the car, I told Selena I felt disrespected. I kept my voice even. I used the careful words counselors teach you. When you said that, I felt she stared out the window and said, I'm not doing this right now. I tried again, softer. I need you to have my back. That's when she turned, looked me dead in the face, and said, Kareem, your feelings are your problem. Stop trying to make them mine. Then she added, with a casual cruelty, you're supposed to be a husband. Act like it. Something in me went quiet after that. Not angry, not loud, quiet. It felt like my body finally accepted what my mind had been denying. She didn't want a partnership. She wanted a stage. And she wanted me as a steady prop in the background. Useful, reliable, and replaceable. The next morning, she acted cheerful, humming while she made coffee, like she hadn't sliced me open the night before. While I didn't match her energy, she frowned and said, oh my God, are you still upset? Then she laughed, as if my pain was childish. This is why you're exhausted, she said. A week later, she proposed what she called a smart financial move. She wanted us to consolidate. My savings, her business plans, the wedding expenses, and the condo into one stronger picture for lenders. She talked fast, like speed could replace logic. If we show unity, banks take us more seriously, she said. She also mentioned a business line of credit that required a personal guarantor. When I paused, she tightened her mouth. Don't do that, she warned. Don't start doubting me. I asked to see the documents before signing. She snatched the folder away and said, there you go, making it my problem again. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying her words, your feelings are your problem. I realized she used that sentence like a shield. It allowed her to hurt people without consequences. It allowed her to demand without giving. And I realized something else, something that scared me. She was pushing me to tie my name, my credit, and my future to a plan she wouldn't even explain. I got up at 2 a.m., sat at the kitchen table, and opened my laptop. I looked up what personal guarantees meant. I read about business debt. I read about joint liability. I felt my stomach drop as the risk became clear. The next day at work, I couldn't focus. My supervisor, a steady woman named Patrice Vaughn, noticed I was off. Patrice didn't pry. She asked one question. Are you safe at home? The word safe hit me strangely because Selena wasn't physically harming me. But safety isn't just bruises. Safety is knowing your partner won't deliberately put you in a hole and call it love. I told Patrice I was stressed about finances and wedding planning. She nodded once and said, stress makes people show their real character. Believe what you see. Then she gave me the number of a financial advisor she trusted in Colombia. I made an appointment with the advisor, a man named Dorian Kitt. I told Selena I had a work meeting. It wasn't a lie. My work meeting was saving my life. Dorian listened while I explained the consolidation idea. He didn't judge. He asked for details. When I admitted Selena wouldn't share full records, he raised his eyebrows and said, that's already your answer. He explained what a personal guarantee could do, how it could follow me for years if her business collapsed. He also explained how quickly people can stack debt when they're chasing an image. If the business is real, he said, it can handle transparency. If it can't handle transparency, it's not a business. It's a wish. From Colombia, I drove to Towson and sat in a small law office with an attorney named Nairi Suddath. Nairi had calm eyes and a voice that sounded like boundaries. I told her I was engaged and worried about being pressured into signing. She asked, do you trust her? I hesitated. Nairi didn't fill the silence for me. Finally, I admitted the truth. I don't know anymore. She nodded like she'd heard that sentence 100 times. Then you don't sign, she said. Love doesn't require legal blindfolds. She asked if Selena had ever tried to submit paperwork on my behalf. I said I didn't think so. Nairi told me to verify. Verification is where everything cracked open. I requested my credit reports, quietly, without mentioning it to Selena. I looked for new inquiries, new accounts, anything unusual. At first, nothing jumped out. Then I saw a soft inquiry I didn't recognize tied to a lender Selena had mentioned. My chest tightened. It wasn't proof, but it was smoke. I called the lender, careful with my words, and asked what my name was attached to. They said they couldn't share details without authorization, but they confirmed I'd been listed as a potential guarantor on application. I had never signed anything. I thanked them, hung up, and sat in my car, feeling like the air had turned heavy. I went home that evening and watched Selena like I was seeing her for the first time. She was on the couch, scrolling, laughing at something on her phone. I asked if she'd submitted anything with my name on it. Her eyes flicked up. "What are you talking about?" I repeated the question. She put her phone down slowly, then smiled, a small, cold smile. "Why are you snooping?" she asked. I said I wasn't snooping. I was protecting myself. She sighed dramatically and said, "This is exactly what I mean. You and your paranoia. You always want a reason to be upset. Handle your feelings. Don't put them on me." That was the moment I decided I was done arguing. Arguing with someone like Selena was like trying to hold water in your hands. The tighter you gripped, the faster it slipped away, and somehow you were blamed for being wet. I went into the bedroom, closed the door, and texted Nairi. Then I opened a folder on my laptop and started collecting everything. Email confirmations, deposit receipts, screenshots of messages where Selena mentioned lenders, photos of documents she left on the counter. I didn't hack anything. I didn't steal. I gathered what was already in my life, proof of what was happening. Over the next week, Selena turned up the pressure. She wanted me to sign quickly, as if speed could trap me before I could think. She also started telling people I was acting strange. Her friend would text asking if I was okay, but it didn't feel like concern. It felt like surveillance. Brinley called me and said, "Selena says you're getting cold feet. I hope you're not trying to embarrass her." I told Brinley I was handling private matters privately. Brinley's voice sharpened. "Private matters become public when you waste a woman's time," she said. "Don't make us regret welcoming you." I hung up shaking, not from fear, but from the realization that they saw me as a resource, not a person. The humiliation escalated in small daily ways. Selena would correct me in front of strangers. At a bridal appointment, the consultant asked my opinion on a suit color, and Selena laughed and said, "He doesn't know fashion. Just smile." People chuckled politely. I stood there holding a garment bag, feeling invisible. In the car, I said I didn't like being spoken to like that. Selena glanced at me and said, "Oh my God, you're so fragile. How do you survive at work?" Then she smiled at her own joke, like I was a cartoon character for her entertainment. I tried one last time to appeal to her humanity. I chose a calm evening, cooked dinner, and turned off the TV. I told her I loved her, but I couldn't marry someone who dismissed me and pressured me financially. I asked for transparency, bank statements, business records, a clear plan. She listened with a bored face. When I finished, she leaned back and said, "Kareem, you're doing too much. You want a mommy, not a wife. If you can't handle being with a high-level woman, just say that." Her words landed like a slap. Then she added, almost kindly, "But don't try to make me smaller because you're insecure." 2 days later, she crossed a line that forced my hand. I came home from work and found a condo door chain latched from inside. I knocked. She took her time opening it, then stood there blocking the entrance. "Where have you been?" she asked. I said, "Work." She looked past me like she didn't believe me. Then she said, "I don't like the energy you're bringing in here." I asked what she meant. She replied, "You're tense." "It's annoying." Then she stepped aside just enough to let me squeeze past her. "If you're going to be in a mood, sleep on the couch," she said. "I need peace." She had just used my home like a punishment. That night on the couch, staring at the ceiling, I realized the phrase, "I need peace," wasn't about peace. It was about control. Selena wanted an environment where she never had to face consequences or discomfort. She wanted a partner who absorbed everything and asked for nothing. She wanted someone whose pain stayed silent. I didn't sleep much. I got up before sunrise and drove to a quiet parking lot to make calls. I called Nairi. I called Dorian. I called the lender again. This time, I asked what steps I could take to protect my identity and formally state I had not authorized any guarantee. Nairi helped me draft a simple, clear notice. I would not sign as a guarantor, and any application listing me without my signature was unauthorized. Dorian helped me separate my finances immediately, move paychecks to a new account, secure my savings, freeze my credit, and document everything. It felt strange to do this against someone I was supposed to marry, but it also felt like inhaling after holding my breath for months. I didn't want revenge. I wanted safety. I wanted to stop bleeding. And I knew, deep down, that the only reason Selena felt so comfortable dismissing my feelings was because she believed I'd never enforce a boundary. The final lender meeting was scheduled for a Friday. Selena had been acting extra sweet that week, almost theatrical. She called me baby again. She offered to rub my shoulders. She even asked about my day. I didn't fall for it. It wasn't warmth, it was strategy. The night before the meeting, she placed a folder on the counter and said, "Tomorrow is important. Don't mess this up." I looked at the folder without touching it. "I'm not signing," I said. She blinked. "What?" I repeated it calmly. "I'm not tying my name to your business or debt." Her face hardened as if a mask slipped. She didn't beg. She didn't ask why. She didn't try to understand. She attacked. "So you don't believe in me," she said. I told her my belief wasn't a signature. She laughed sharply. "You are a burden," she said, each word slow and deliberate. "You make everything heavy. I should have known you'd do this. You're not built for a woman like me." Then she picked up her phone and started typing fast. I didn't need to ask who she was texting. I could picture the group chat already. I could imagine them calling me weak, insecure, controlling. I walked into the bedroom and started packing a bag because I knew what was coming next. Sure enough, she followed me, leaning in the doorway like a judge. "Where do you think you're going?" she asked. I said I was leaving for the night to cool off. She scoffed. "Running away like always," she said. "Good. Go. You'll come back when you realize you can't do better." I zipped my bag and walked past her. She didn't try to stop me. She wanted me to leave so she could tell the story her way. At the door, she called after me, "And don't think you're ruining my wedding. If you can't do your part, I'll replace you." Her voice was flat, confident, without a trace of regret. I stayed at a hotel in Columbia, not far from Dorian's office. The room smelled like detergent and silence. I sat on the edge of the bed and felt grief crash over me in waves. Not just grief for the relationship, but grief for myself, for how long I'd accepted humiliation as normal. I thought about the dinner table laughter. I thought about her smirk. I thought about the couch. I thought about the folder on the counter like a trap. I cried quietly, the kind of cry that isn't dramatic, just exhausted. Then I wiped my face, opened my laptop, and followed Nairi's instructions. I sent the notice to the lender. I sent cancellation emails for any wedding contracts under my name. The next morning, Selena called once. I answered because I wanted a clean record. Her voice was cold. "So you're really doing this?" she asked. I said, "Yes." She laughed softly. "Good," she said, "because I'm done carrying your emotions." I almost corrected her, told her she had never carried anything but herself, but I stopped. Correction would be wasted breath. I told her I would be arranging to move my belongings and that all communication should go through Nairi moving forward. Selena paused, then said, "You think you're important." The call ended. No apology, no softness, no repair, just contempt, clean and final. By afternoon, the lender called me. Their tone was professional, but there was an edge of caution. They had reviewed the application listing me as guarantor and flagged inconsistencies. They asked if I had signed anything. I said I had not. They asked if I had given verbal consent. I said I had not. They asked if I would be willing to submit a written statement. I said yes. I sent it within the hour. It was simple. I did not authorize the use of my name. Then they said something that made my stomach drop and my heart lift at the same time. "Mr. Niles, because of this, we need to review the entire file and any related submissions." That review was the beginning of karma. Karma didn't arrive as a dramatic scene. It arrived as a procedure. It arrived as compliance. It arrived as people were doing their jobs. Because when a lender flags potential identity misuse, it doesn't stay in one email. It triggers internal checks, and internal checks pull threads. Those threads lead to records. Those records lead to questions. And questions are dangerous for people who build their lives on smoke. Selena thought she was simply moving fast. She thought she was smart enough to slide my stability under her plan without resistance. She didn't consider that institutions don't care about her charm. They care about signatures, dates, and documentation. Back at the condo, she responded exactly how I expected, by making the move out painful. When I arrived with my cousin Lionel to pick up my things, she didn't open the door right away. She made us wait in the hallway like strangers. When she finally opened it, Brinley was inside, seated on my couch like she owned it. Selena folded her arms and said, "Make it quick." Lionel stayed calm, but I could feel his anger through his stillness. I walked into my own home and felt like I was trespassing. Selena followed me room to room, watching as if I might steal something. "Don't touch that," she said once, pointing at a lamp I bought. "That's for the aesthetic." The humiliation wasn't just personal, it was strategic. She wanted me to feel small, so I'd second-guess my boundary. She wanted me to back down and come begging, ready to sign anything to earn peace again. Brinley watched me pack and said, "I told Selena you weren't strong enough. Men like you want sympathy, not responsibility." I looked at Brinley and realized she truly believed that cruelty was wisdom. Selena didn't defend me. She nodded like she was learning from a teacher. When I carried my clothes out, Selena said, "Don't forget your little journals," loud enough for a neighbor to hear. Then she laughed. Lionel's hands tightened into fists, but I shook my head. Silence was my power now. I moved into a small rental in Baltimore County. Nothing fancy, just clean and quiet. The first week, the quiet felt strange. Without Selena's contempt, I kept waiting for a new insult to drop from the ceiling. My nervous system didn't trust peace. I went to work, came home, ate simple meals, and tried to sleep. But Selena wasn't done. She sent messages through mutual friends, never directly. People would call and say, "Selena said you're spiraling," or "Selena said you were jealous." She controlled the narrative like she controlled rooms. I didn't defend myself. I let the facts do their slow work. Truth doesn't sprint, it waits. 2 weeks later, the lender review became a wall. Selena's business credit wasn't just denied. It was suspended pending verification. She tried a different bank. She tried a credit union. She tried applying with a smaller amount. Each attempt ran into the same barrier. Questions. Requests for documentation. Proof of income. Tax filings. Business registration consistency. And because her studio had always been part reality and part performance, she couldn't provide clean answers. I learned this not because she told me. She never told me anything real, but because she called Lionel one night screaming, demanding to know what I had done. Lionel calmly said, "He protected himself." Selena shouted, "He ruined me." No remorse, only rage that her plan didn't work. The next blow hit through her clients. Selena had been bragging about a big contract for a wedding in Annapolis, her breakthrough. She had taken a deposit, already spent part of it, and planned to use my guarantor-backed line of credit to float the rest. When her funding froze, she started cutting corners. She missed deadlines. She delayed vendor payments. Vendors don't tolerate delays when their own bills are due. The client noticed the disorganization and asked for receipts. Selena couldn't provide clear records because her finances were tangled. The client backed out. Then word traveled. Not gossip, business word. One cancellation becomes a pattern when people are already watching. Within a month, she lost 3 bookings. That's when her circle began to change. Kalia and Denise stopped showing up as often. Monroe stopped replying quickly. The friends who once laughed at my pain were suddenly busy. They didn't step in to save Selena because they never cared about her beyond the glow of being near her image. The glow faded, and they drifted. Selena didn't learn humility from this. She didn't reflect. She blamed everyone else, clients, vendors, banks, jealous people, and, of course, me. She posted vague captions about betrayal. She hinted that a weak man tried to sabotage her. I kept my life small and quiet. I went to work. I paid my bills. I built peace without performance. The real twist the one Selena never saw coming, was that the lender's flag triggered something she couldn't talk her way out of. When they reviewed her file, they noticed irregularities in reported income and tax documentation. They didn't accuse her of a crime in a dramatic way. They requested verification. Verification required records. Records expose gaps, and gaps raise risk. Risk makes institutions protect themselves. She panicked and tried to fix the gaps quickly, which meant scrambling for paperwork that didn't exist. Meanwhile, because she had been ignoring tax notices for her business, those notices weren't just personal problems anymore. They were obstacles. And obstacles don't disappear because you're pretty, confident, or loud. Around that time, I got an opportunity at work, an internal transfer to Charlotte that came with a promotion. Patrice recommended it to me. She told leadership I was steady under pressure, reliable, the kind of person who didn't crumble when things got hard. When I got the offer, I sat in my car and cried again, but this time it wasn't from exhaustion. It was a relief. Success came quietly, the way real success often does. No applause, no speeches, just a signed offer letter and a chance to start over with dignity intact. I didn't tell many people. I didn't post anything. I didn't want Selena's shadow anywhere near my new beginning. Before I left Baltimore, I met Nairi one more time to finalize clean boundaries. She helped me document the end of shared obligations, confirm cancellations, and protect my credit long-term. She also reminded me of something important. Closure doesn't come from the person who harmed you, especially when they feel no remorse. Closure comes from your own decision to stop participating in the harm. I carried that sentence with me like armor. When I packed my life into boxes, I didn't take many reminders of the engagement. The ring was already gone. Selena kept it, claiming it was hers. I didn't fight her for it. I realized she wanted objects, not love. Let her keep what she valued. Charlotte felt different, brighter, wider, less haunted. I found a modest apartment in a clean building, started a routine, and slowly learned how to breathe again. I went to the gym after work, not to prove anything, just to feel my body belonged to me. I cooked meals and ate at my own table without braces of tension in my shoulders. I took evening walks and let the quiet reset my mind. Peace became something I practiced daily. And the more stable I became, the more clearly I saw the old pattern. Selena had trained me to believe my emotions were liabilities. In reality, my emotions were alarms. They were telling me the truth long before my pride could admit it. 2 months after I moved, karma hit hard enough that even distance couldn't muffle it. Lionel called me with a careful voice. "You sitting down?" he asked. He told me Selena had been served with a civil demand related to mishandled client deposits and unpaid vendor invoices. Not criminal, not sensational, just consequences that cost money and reputation. He said Brinley was furious, calling everyone ungrateful, insisting Selena was being targeted. Selena, according to Lionel, wasn't sorry. She was offended. She said people were trying to humble her. That word, humble, made me exhale slowly. She didn't want to be humble. She wanted to be untouchable. Consequences are the one thing people like her can't negotiate with. Then came the message from Selena herself. Late one night, a text appeared on my phone from a number I hadn't blocked because I didn't expect her to reach out directly. It read, "You really think you can just disappear after you wasted my time?" I stared at the screen for a full minute. The audacity didn't shock me anymore. It confirmed what I already knew. In her mind, I was an investment that failed to pay off. She didn't miss me. She missed what she thought she could extract from me. A second message popped up. "Fix what you broke." That word, fix, made my jaw tighten. I didn't break her. I stopped shielding her from herself. 2 days later, she showed up in Charlotte. I don't know how she got my new address. Maybe a mutual acquaintance, maybe social engineering, maybe pure persistence. She knocked like she had a right to my door. When I opened it, she stood there in a bright outfit and a face that looked carefully composed, but her eyes had a frantic edge. She didn't ask to come in. She started talking immediately, like time was a weapon. She said the banks blacklisted her. She said vendors were lying. She said clients were unreasonable. Then she said, with absolute certainty, "You need to call and tell them you support me. You started this. You can end it." She still hadn't apologized. Not once. I felt a familiar ache in my chest, the old habit of trying to explain myself to someone committed to misunderstanding me. But I didn't step into that trap. I kept my voice calm. I told her I wouldn't be involved. She laughed sharply. "So you're really just going to watch me struggle?" she asked, as if my role in life was to rescue her. I said, "You told me my feelings were my problem. I handled them. I made peace." She rolled her eyes. "There you go with the therapy talk," she snapped. Then she tried to stab deeper. "You were never going to be enough for me anyway." Her words were meant to control. They didn't. They were just noise now. She stepped closer, lowering her voice like she was offering a deal. "If you help me right now, we can talk," she said. "We can still make this work. People will respect you again if you stand beside me." That's when I understood the final layer of her cruelty. She truly believed love was a transaction. Respect was a costume you could buy. I looked at her and said the sentence I had rehearsed in my mind for months, the one that had become my spine. "Selena, I made my peace. And once I made my peace, I stopped making it my job to carry your consequences." Her face tightened like she had been slapped. She wasn't hurt. She was furious that I didn't fold. She tried one last tactic, shame. "You're cold," she said. "You're petty. You're bitter." I nodded once, not because she was right, but because I didn't need to defend myself. Then I said, "You don't get to rewrite the past because the future isn't working out." She scoffed and said, "Whatever. You were always weak." She turned and walked away, heels clicking hard on the concrete, like she wanted the sound to punish me. I watched her go without chasing, without pleading, without explaining. When she reached her car, she looked back once, waiting for a reaction. I gave her none. I closed my door quietly, like ending a chapter. Karma finished the job over the next few months, not with drama, but with precision. Her studio didn't collapse overnight. It cracked until it couldn't stand. She lost access to the image she depended on, credit, vendor trust, consistent bookings. She had to move back in with Brinley for a while, and Brinley's support came with constant criticism. The friends who laughed at me vanished when there was nothing glamorous to attach themselves to. Jory Gaines, the man Selena hinted she could replace me with, was nowhere to be found when her life required accountability instead of compliments. She was left with the one thing she never prepared for. Her own choices fully reflected back at her. And me? I didn't become famous. I didn't give speeches. I didn't expose her online. I built my life like a quiet structure, steady, private, strong. I grew at work. I saved money. I made friends who didn't find pain entertaining. I visited my mother more. I slept through nights without waking up tense. Sometimes I still felt the sting of what I endured. The laughter at the table, the couch, the smirk, but it no longer defined me. It reminded me. My feelings were never the problem. They were the warning system. And when I finally listened, I didn't just escape Selena. I escaped the version of myself that thought love meant accepting cruelty. That was my comeback, silent, grounded, and permanent. If you stayed to the end, you already know the truth. The real revenge is boundaries. Hit subscribe for more real-life relationship stories where disrespect meets consequences. No fake speeches, no viral exposure, just quiet wins. And if you want the next one, watch the video on screen. She said, "Act like a husband." So I protected my name and let her panic. The end.